Do you feel that we live in a happy world? Is this a happy functioning society? And will it be in 10, 20 years? Or are we headed towards the demise of the human civilization? Are people losing a sense of who they truly are, which is leading to our enmeshment in an artificial matrix, which seems to offer solutions, but are they really? Or are these only solutions for people who have lost a sense of true inner unity and are feeling like the hive mind consciousness is the new reality of unification? These are questions that we should be asking ourselves, but many people are not, because this reality of inner knowing and unification with the soul is what is becoming nearly extinct these days. What's popular is every option that is taken by the collective, every decision that is made as part of the matrix at large, which makes people feel like they have to be consumed in the mass programs, and everything that other people think, feel, decide to do, and experience, making them feel that their true inner knowing is something that isn't really helpful in reality as a whole. And why do we experience this reality? What is the true cause of this? Well, I think it begins when we're just children. This is the true formation of the matrix. This is a matrix of mind. There isn't really an external program which we are trapped in, though many people believe that we have to escape the matrix and its programming. The nature of the matrix is such that we are projecting it. All of our perceptions can become enmeshed in the matrix if we don't learn to differentiate ourselves from it. There are two programs playing out here. One is what our own constructs of our mentality are dictating. It's who we are. It's how we feel. It's what we experience as right versus wrong, truth versus fiction. If we grew up in an environment in which we were encouraged to be ourselves, to speak our truth, to express our feelings, and to dive deeper into the questions of what life is and what is this truth that may be stranger than fiction, we can discover that there is a way to discern between what we experience and what reality is dictating. But because many people do not realize this, they don't find a way to discern. Let's dive a layer deeper. When we are just forming as a human being, we experience only one reality, which is that of unity consciousness, pure oneness. A child in utero experiences the reality of her mother. There is no separation or way to discern between the mother's thoughts, her hormonal activity, her nutrients, her nervous system intake and regulation, and the baby's inner environment. That wholeness allows the child to feel like when they enter the world, they too are whole. But there starts to become a need for egoic development when the child has its separate needs that the parent isn't able to meet for them unless those needs are brought to the surface and expressed. If a child needs to eat, it cries. If a child feels unsafe or needs protection and external nurturance, that child creates a space for those needs to be met. However, when kids don't experience that, there becomes a dichotomy between the inner environment and the external world. The external environment becomes a threat that the child needs to protect itself from by developing a way to cope with those needs in life. In adults, the same reality holds true. We are biologically enmeshed with the environment because we constantly need to survive and to protect ourselves. There is a need to be engaged all the time through our senses in order to determine what we should be doing in order to maintain a sense of our wholeness. However, what makes us different from animals that are existing in this kind of fight or flight responsivity all of the time? What makes us different from a gazelle in Africa that is just running away from being the prey of a predator? We too are existing in a world in which there is always a threat. However, our consciousness projects threats even where they do not necessarily exist. Plenty of people experience a reality in which there is always a threat. There is always something that is oppressing them because they do not feel like they can safely hold space for their own needs, their own feelings, and their own truth. This leads to the collapse of the self and the true essence, which holds the purpose and the reason why you are here experiencing a separate consciousness of your own. The artificially created matrix creates a space for you to plug into it where you lose that sense of your soul's essence and learn to become just another subordinate of the system, a slave to the system, if you will, which is why many people feel like they are prisoners in this world. They have to conform, they have to believe what everybody else does, and fit in even with people where they don't experience an internal resonance. However, this is an option. And this is an option that we may not be recognizing, because if we did not recognize our ability to differentiate as children, we will not know that we have the ability to experience a world of our own perception, and our own ability to experience oneness by finding inner unity. So this brings us back to why we are here. Our role within this universal ecosystem is to experience what consciousness really allows us to feel. It's the reality of knowing two sides of one coin. It's the full experience of being, which comes through being able to merge the heart and the mind, being able to think both rationally and intuitively, instinctively and emotionally, through the logos aspect of our left brain thinking and the more pathos side of our right brain. This means merging the dimensions of feeling and thinking into the one nature that is interwoven consciousness, which allows you to experience all sides of you. Many of us experience a life in which we're constantly distracting ourselves from what we truly feel, because we don't think that it's safe to authentically be ourselves. When we were children, at that formative time when our ego was just being developed, if we did not feel like we were safe to express our needs, we just didn't feel like we could be ourselves. And so an ego, a dense collection of different mental constructs formed in order to shield ourselves from our true feelings, from our true desires, from our true sense of knowing and self. And this is what leads to narcissism. This is what leads to toxic addictions, patterns of codependency and abuse, which ends up infiltrating the entirety of our lives simply because we are disconnected from our true sense of self. This self is what we need to reconnect with in order to experience what reality is really about. And are we going to be making the choice of just choosing to maintain a matrix program in our minds, or are we going to be creating a new program for ourselves, which requires subconsciously reprogramming ourselves to meet our own needs, to recognize who we are at our core, and to distinguish the person who we are from the person that society has made us to believe that we are? We do not have to be that individual, because we do need to learn that true sense of self. We live in a world plagued by narcissism, anxiety, depression, and plenty of people choosing to escape this sense of self because it's so easy to become drawn into all of the distractions of life, from social media to toxic addictions, all of the different substances and tools which people resort to because they think that that is what's going to make them feel more whole, more loved, more seen or accepted among all of this toxicity. Meanwhile, what's happening internally is more neurochemical imbalance, more hormonal instability, more of the same echoing of our childhood trauma coming through because we are providing ourselves with the ability to escape the truth of feeling. And better yet, as the formation of artificial intelligence and this hive mind consciousness is perpetuated, more people feel like we are moving towards this robotic, superhuman reality in which man-godhood is promoted over god-manhood. Let's think about this difference. Man-godhood is where man feels like they are superior over the divine. This is where man invents the technologies, the systems, and ways of being that defy the natural order in order to feel like we are biological superiors. This is when we replace feeling with thinking. This is where we begin to operate purely due to our fragmented consciousness in order to develop solutions for our disunity while creating more disunity, and to chase something externally which we think will allow us to feel whole. Meanwhile, God-manhood is where we can merge with the divine. This is the true paradigm which applies to all nature, all biological life forms, and this is how true healing sets in. God-manhood allows us to develop a sense of reconnection to the true source of divinity within us. It's discovering that the biological living matrix and organic life already holds all of the codes to our survival. There is no need to experience fight or flight mode, because when we can come back to our internal senses, we can see that everything biologically is routing us to come back to that oneness. Our cells will automatically begin to restore when we can form an environment of love for ourselves. Our thoughts and our hormones are all going to come to an equilibrium when we decide to experience inner unity, to feel what we do, and to respond to ourselves as the own loving provider in our worlds. However, when we choose to chase, when we choose to distract ourselves, when we choose to come into circumstances and environments of people which truly falsify our ability to be ourselves, we end this ability to come into harmony. And we start feeling like there is another system which needs to exist because we are a slave to that reality. In truth, there is one reality. There is only one way of seeing the wholeness of the universe, and that is by seeing that this is all part of one living organism. We are all cells in a cosmic matrix, which allows us to experience consciousness in different forms, and different life forms are all plugged into this same one. So why then are human beings trying to escape this reality of wholeness? Why are we trying to create more splits, more systems, more ways of distracting and healing and coping that just introduces more artificial substances into our living creation? This world is not for escapism, it's for creation, and that creation can only come by plugging into the true awareness of who we are at our core, which is that one substance, the one etheric life form, which is cosmic consciousness laid into our flesh and skin and all other biological substrates in this reality. In order to come back to our true sense of self, we need to recognize that all problems societally in this world are due to the same discontinuity from the one. All issues can be cured by coming back within, by learning that healing is only one channel, which leads you back to that root source. By coming into this awareness, we can stabilize our own system, we can heal our past, we can empower ourselves to live a brighter future, and we can help other people see this light that exists in consciousness and that doesn't require any artificial making in order to fragment itself further. If all of us would awaken to this need to resolve inner disunity, to see the whole as a reflection of us and all societal issues as projections of a fragmented consciousness, we can learn to heal these issues within, to stop being triggered by external conflict and learning to recognize the issue within us, to see in every wounded individual a wounded inner child that is seeking love, seeking protection, seeking what each of us is experiencing on an internal level, which is this need to find wholeness. In the chase for unity, we create more disunity by just thinking that there is no way to heal, and the only way to evolve is by creating new systems, new approaches, when in actuality there's only one way. And it means coming back to yourself in order to know that the true cause and effect is only one. Think about it.